Hi. I guess you wonder what this is all about. And I thought for a while about where I should do this or not. Then again, I said, well, maybe I need to say some things that I've never said before. Why I haven't said these things, I don't really know. Perhaps at the time I didn't feel that the need was there as I feel the need is now. And when you get to this point in your life, you begin to think back to the old days, to the time when it all began, to the time maybe when you stopped being a boy, stopped being a young man, and started being a man, making plans and looking toward the future. And this happened to me one day in Newville, Alabama, when I was living with my grandmother and grandfather, as you remember. And I went up to Newville for something, and I saw this young black-headed girl walking down the sidewalk with another girl headed back towards school. And I was immediately attracted to this person. I thought this person was pretty. I liked the way this person carried herself. She walked upright. She walked with her shoulders back, with her head up, had long black hair. This person appealed to me so much that I got a friend of mine, Marinelle Peterson, to see about making me a date with this girl. And she knew who she was, and she told me her name. And her name was Jolene. Well, after a year or two of courtship, as you know, we got married. And we started out with almost nothing. Started out on borrowed money, if you remember. But we worked hard, and we kept things in line. And we began to accomplish, and we began to add to our household. And finally, we moved to Baker Village in old 46A, our own little thing. And we moved in bare essentials of furniture. And I was working with the police department, as you remember. Wasn't making a lot of money, probably less than $300 a month. But we existed. We got along. We were happy. We loved one another. And this is the first ingredient in an upcoming young married relationship. There's got to be love. There's got to be respect. There's got to be admiration. There's just got to be there, the need for one another. And not long after then, we were blessed by a young man. We were blessed by an 8-pound, 6-ounce bouncing baby boy that we called Carl Jr. Later it became necessary to have 2 bedrooms when he began to grow. Later it was time to look for a home when we had saved up and scraped up enough money to pay down on a home. This was in 1958. So we moved to 3805 13th Avenue, and there we lived for some 33 years. We grew there, we matured there, we developed as a family in this 3805 13th Avenue. Some good things happened there, and probably some not so good things happened there. You lost a mother, and you lost a father there. I lost a grandmother. I lost a grandfather. During these early years, I saw my family split up, and my mother go one way and my father go the other way, and my only brother go still another way. But I realized that this was faith. There was not a lot I could do about this, and I really didn't try. I just talked to both of them and told them that I had my way to go, they had their way to go, and that if they needed me, give me a call. Well, they never called. So many years went by that I didn't have a meaningful relationship with my father, and just a so-so relationship with my mother through my grandparents, Archie and Carrie Elmore. Probably two of the most important people in my early life. I dearly loved these two old people. They meant a whole lot to me then, and their memory means a lot to me now. Our relationship grew stronger, grew deeper, took on more meaning. You worked hard, I worked part-time jobs, done all these things that were necessary. And we also had this young man that depended upon us so much. And we tried to make sure that he was loved and he was admired and he had a place, and that he knew about this place. And things that we done included him. As you know, we lost one in June of 1955. This was probably the lowest point in my life, is whenever you go to the cemetery and leave one of your own. But, you know, this is a part of life. When you're born, you start that gradual move towards dying. And I understood this, although it wasn't easy to accept. But I had a wife in the medical center, the city hospital then, that was almost dead. You almost left me. They told me this. And they told me that they wouldn't advise trying to have any more children. So we didn't. So we raised Carl as an only son. And I'm not sure that this was fair to him. He was raised, you know, without a brother, without a sister. Now, he could use a brother or a sister, but he don't have them. Maybe I was somewhat selfish then, but when the doctors look at you and explain the situation, then you say, well, do I try to have another one and maybe lose the one I've got, and then I'm there with a little one to try to raise by myself plus the other one? So I weighed all things, and we talked about it, and we decided not to try to have any more children. Probably this is where my selfishness come in. Probably I should have went for a second medical opinion. Maybe we should have tried to have had a second child, especially for Carl's benefit, because there is definitely a disadvantage to being raised in a home with only one child. But nevertheless, that's neither here nor there. It's just some things that you think on later in life, and if you were given an opportunity, you might have done things a little different. But we existed, we had fun, we loved one another, we took vacations, we traveled a lot. I worked every day in other jobs, you worked every day. You worked 33 years at Sunshine Biscuit. Maybe we don't have a lot now, materially speaking, money-wise, but you was a great contributor to what we have. You stood by me, you supported me, you went with me places. I never had to go alone. For this, I was always grateful, because it told a lot of people that I had a wife that respected me, that I had a wife that loved me, that I had a wife that liked my company. And you went with me, and you supported me, even some places that you really didn't like to go or didn't want to go. You went because I asked you to go, and you went because I really needed you, and I think you realize that. Money really can't buy things like this. I made some bad decisions in my time. Probably the decision about the child was one of them. And I've made some other decisions. You know, I never would get a house with a fireplace, and you wanted a fireplace so bad. And I realized that. But I didn't really see the need for a fireplace and having to feed it. Now I understand maybe this was a bad decision. You wanted to move away from 3805 before I did. Later I understood that this was a real meaning in your life, and that you wanted to move away because you could see the deterioration of the neighborhood. And I could see the deterioration there, but I figured when I retired we could fix up our place real good and have a nice little home there where we raised our family, where it all basically began when we left Baker Village. This was the first time I had ever owned anything other than an automobile and the clothes on my back. So I was proud of 3805, and I really didn't want to leave. But as things gradually grew worse and our neighborhood began to deteriorate, and the people in its character and integrity began to fail, and the people on both sides of us really wasn't the caliber of people that we was. So finally one day the decision was made to leave 3805, and we left and moved where we are now, which I really enjoy. And I realize now that we probably should have left 3805 before we did. But nevertheless, we did not. I feel that you and I have prospered. We had good guidance. I had a grandmother and grandfather that I could look to. You had a mother and father you could look to, and sisters and brothers. I had a brother, but I really couldn't look to him. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I should have put forth a greater effort to keep and maintain some type of relationship with him. Being the older brother, maybe this was my responsibility. Perhaps I realize that now, but I guess probably it is too late to there's too much been said. There's too much been done. That at some point in time, when you reach a point to where you say some things that cannot be forgotten. Although we're supposed to forgive, but it's extremely hard to forget sometimes. And these things that we don't forget, we continually remember, and we attach significance to them. And this probably is like it is with me. We're all human beings, and we do things at times because of emotion, because of anger, because they may be a little unconcerned there about the situation. Later on, we have a different view, and we tend to feel maybe that we erred somewhere along the way. But I want you to know that there was no one loved by me before I loved you. That all during our togetherness, you was loved. And I often told you this. Probably not enough. And you told me that you loved me. But I knew that. All the time. I knew that. There were only two people in my life that ever told me that they loved me. My grandmother and you. My father never did, although I believe he did. My mother never did, as I remember, but I believe she did in her own way. And sometimes we might question some of her ways, and her ways might be described in some of the things that I have said. There was never, although we didn't always agree, we would talk about it and we consider it. And we had some discussions about things, but we never struck one another in anger. Divorce was a word that wasn't in our household. Although I was married and had a family of my own when my parents separated, this hurt me, this bothered me, because now my base, my family base, had deteriorated to the point that I didn't have one. My father remarried, my mother remarried, they destroyed the home and they went on their own separate ways, and I really couldn't feel welcome at either place. And I did not want this to happen for our son. I didn't want his home base to be eliminated, be broken down, be broken apart by things that I done, or maybe things that you done. I've always loved you. I never saw anyone, anywhere, that I thought I'd rather have than you. And I don't believe you ever saw anyone, anywhere, that you had rather have than me. So with that, we have come from there to here. And you're seeing something now you're seeing something now that you hadn't seen very much from me, probably never, and that's me get emotional and wipe a tear. This don't come really easy when you have to do these things. Even on the day of my retirement, probably one of the most emotional experiences I have ever had, I didn't shed a tear. I might have shed one or two tears when we buried Mama. And I neared emotion when we buried my father. And I was emotional when I buried our son, Stanley. But emotional things just really wouldn't come to me in a great amount. And you know, you used to call and tell me that I was hard and cold. And this would kind of shake me a little bit, but it didn't really bother me. But now I see that maybe I should have been a little more tender and understanding. We saw our excuse me. We saw our son get married. We saw our son graduate from high school, go into college, get a job, go to work, get married, start his own family. And this gives you a feeling, well, it was worth it all. You know, the aches and the pains that he had, the sickness, the operation in the early years. All of these things come full circle. And now, he's a grown man and he's married and he's got a wife. And later on, he would have 2 children. I think he married a very fine girl. And I have always thought this. I've always admired Vicky. I've always liked Vicky. I've always loved Vicky as a daughter-in-law. And I really tried to do the things that would make her respect me and like me as a father-in-law. I think Carl was very good in selecting a wife. And I appreciate the fact that Vicky selected him. When I look at a lot of young marriages that end in divorce, that end in the bottle, that end taking drugs, I say all of this could have happened to our family, but they didn't. I like to believe it's because there was love in this family. Nothing like this was in Vicky's family, nothing like this was in our family until Mama and Papa done it in 1952. Divorce is likened to a death. When you die, a person goes, but whenever you divorce, a family goes. And all the things that is connected and concerned with this family also goes. But they both worked and they existed and they had automobiles and they had a good time. And we would visit them. It'd make me feel real good to see him in a home of his own and a job of his own, and had 2 automobiles. It just made me real proud. And today he's got a fine home, a fine family, 2 automobiles and a boat, and all the things that go with it. And I am proud today for what he has accomplished and for what he means to me. And I hope for what I mean, excuse me, of what I mean to him. They have blessed us with 2 grandchildren, Molly and Christopher. And they have been such a joy to our lives. I never knew that there could be so much joy and enjoyment in a person's life till you have grandchildren. I knew my grandmother and grandfather always seemed to like Herbie and I, and always enjoyed us coming. And those 3+ years that I lived with them, 46, 47, 48, and 49, was probably the best 3 years of my life. Because I was right at an age, coming out of young adult, coming out of the Navy in World War II, couldn't find a job and went to live with them. And they opened their hearts and they opened their home and they invited me in, and I lived with them. And they was probably a stabilizing force in my life at that time. I probably reached a level of maturity there that I really needed the presence in my life, just from being with those 2 old folks. And then I met you, and all of it leads me to where I am today. I want you to continue to be supportive of Carl and his family. I want you to be supportive of Molly and Christopher as we have. I know they have a family that loves them and will prepare them and will work with them and will provide for them. And they will go ahead and get an education, and I told Molly that I wanted her to get a PhD. I would like for Christopher to get a PhD because there are so many opportunities in the world of work to people that are terminally degreed. I got a master's degree. I graduated from college thanks to you and your help and your support. You remember when we'd go on vacations, you would read to me while I drove. And y'all would go down on the beach and have fun while I stayed back into the room and wrote papers and developed lectures. And if they will just go on and complete their education, they'll find that there are few doors that will be closed to them in the world of work when their credentials are such. Their daddy got a college education, which should provide motivation and incentive for them to go on and get them a college education. Their mother went to college even in her late years, and learn how to be very proficient in the legal profession that no doubt set her above a lot of her contemporaries in her field of endeavor because of this additional learning. It's extremely hard, and I doubt if anyone can sustain an argument against a good education. And Molly, you and Christopher, at your young, immature ages, may not realize this now, but listen to the ones that have been there. Listen to the ones that have come through this. Listen to the ones that have experience. Listen to the ones that love you and admire you and want the best for you. Benefit from their experience. Benefit from their exposure. Benefit from their wisdom. Look up and out. Don't look down and away. There's no good that can come from this. And one day, when you reach this point in your life, you will understand about it all. Vicki, as I've said before, I really appreciate you being my daughter-in-law. I don't think Carl could have searched the world over and found a better wife. I've seen you work hard. I've seen you serve your family. I've seen you maintain a clean, upright house. I've seen you keep my grandchildren wearing clean clothes. I've seen my grandchildren properly fed. This all means a lot. These are the basics. These are the basics in life. And once you have the basics, you can build on other things. And you had the basics. And you built a family on these basics. As I said before, these are some of the things that I probably should have said, but I didn't. But it suffices now for you to know that there was a time when I did think about them. And I realized that they should have been said, and I realized maybe I erred in not saying these things. I don't know whether they was ever expected or not, but the mistake was made then. And I ask your forgiveness now. Carl, you was a good son. I don't guess a father could have asked for a better son. There was no drugs in your life. There was no stealing in your life. There was no jail in your life. There was no alcohol that I know of in your life. You had a few vehicle wrecks, I reckon. Most boys did. But I knew at a very early age that you didn't have a brother and you didn't have a sister. And would never have one, probably, unless we adopted, and I didn't really want to do that. So I tried to kind of fill in. You know, we fished together. We hunted together. We flew model airplanes together. We drove slot cars together. We done a lot of things together. And I don't know where a daddy could fill in for the others, but I tried to. And we bought you bicycles, and we bought you all kind of toys. Maybe in an effort to say, we're sorry that you didn't have a brother or sister. We bought you automobile at an early age. I bought you fishing equipment. I bought you a shotgun, which you have now. Bought you a rifle, which you have now. And I hope you will pass these on to Christopher and Molly. And you have the weapons that I carried while I was a police officer. And I hope you will pass these on to Molly and Christopher so that they can also. Buster, hush now, hush. No, 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 no. It's all right. It's all right. I was trying, hush. No, no. I was trying to do this so you wouldn't be able to time it so much. But now Buster's gone to barking, so you'll know that this was done at some point in time after we got him. Of course, you recognize this room. But you was a good son. You was supportive of me, and I was supportive of you as it should have been. And you have a good family, which smacks of good dedication and devotion to family values. And you worked at one job for, what, over 20 years, which a lot of people do not. A lot of people seek other avenues, but you did not. I like to think maybe that you could look back and see that your father did not job hunt, that your mother did not job hop, and maybe getting a college education, you could look back and see that your father got one and he was a kind of a middle-aged person. And I've done this primarily because of you. I figured that if you could see a 48-year-old daddy going to college, sitting in a classroom with young people and studying and making the grades and passing and getting a degree, that you would realize that if that old man can do it, I can do it too. And you did. And I'm proud. I just wished you could have got a master's degree. But you elected not to do this, and I didn't question your motives, because at this point in time you was a man, and you was a father, and you was a husband, and you was capable of making your decisions and abiding by your decisions. I just realized that from my vantage point I need to recommend and encourage that I had always done. And once I done this and you decided against it, then I didn't say anything else. And now you're moving along and you're getting on towards a point of retirement in your life. I would tell you now that prepare for retirement. It is the most joyful time of your life, when you can look back and see behind you years of work, years of endeavor and accomplishment, things that you have done, and now you have retired. And you can do some things as a retired person that you didn't do while you had to work because there wasn't time. Retirement is the most enjoyable time of life. Your children will be gone on and they will establish their families. And you'll realize great joy from those two families that you will have. Give them the same encouragement, motivation, support, and help that was given you. Don't ever do less for one of yours than was done for you. At the beginning point in lives, everybody needs some help, needs some encouragement. Well, I didn't have very much of this, but I had a strong will, in which Joe told me about several times, if I remember. And I told her years and years ago, and I told her several times, that if she would stay with me and maintain me and support me, things would be better. That I wanted to retire with an income that I could keep and maintain her and our household at a place in life that we had been used to. That I wanted an automobile that we could ride in, paid for, and I wanted a home that we could live in, paid for. And I thank God that we have accomplished this. And you too can accomplish this if you just set your mind to it and hang in there. Save a few dollars, spend a few dollars, earn a few dollars, and in the end, you'll have a nest egg to draw retirement from. And that and other resources, you will be able to maintain a good lifestyle for you and Vicky and your children, and hopefully grandchildren. Molly, Christopher, no doubt, when this tape is found, that they'll play it, and that you'll be given an opportunity to hear it. I don't question that. It'd be entirely up to JoJo and your father. If they feel that you ought to stay here and excuse me. This is kind of embarrassing. Even at my age, this is embarrassing. But they might not want you to sit here and watch your old granddaddy wipe a tear. But I feel that I would be kind of remiss if I didn't say something to you two. I don't know how old you will be when you have an opportunity to see this. You may be several years older than you are now, and it may not mean a lot to you at that point in time. Then again, it may. But I wanted both of you to know that your granddaddy loves you. And he loves you now. Always has, always will. And I have tried to put a picture before you for you to observe that you can remember and maybe pattern your life after just a little bit by getting a good education, staying free of drugs and alcohol, because there are two things that will literally destroy you. I did not partake of drugs. I did not partake of alcohol. Maybe I did take a little drink or two back in my early years before JoJo. But I laid all that down and walked away from it and got involved with law enforcement. And I have seen over the years what drugs and alcohol will do to people. And they will do it to you if you become involved in them. The best thing you could do is not become involved with drugs and alcohol. Because once they get a hold of you, they will not turn you loose, and they'll destroy you, they'll destroy your family, and they'll destroy everything that you hold near and dear. So seek you a good job. Get you some good education and training. Molly, you might make a good school teacher. You might make a good nurse. You might make a good secretary, a good clerical worker, such as your mother. Christopher, you could become a school teacher. You can become anything that you want to become. If you get you a good education and get you some good training and seek out a job that has a future. Don't seek a job that is seasonal, that you'll work 6 months and get laid off. Seek a job with the state government, the federal government, or somewhere where it is the job will be there from day to day, and as long as you do a good job and remain faithful, you will have a job. I chose city government. JoJo chose a large industry. You could do the same thing. You could get with the federal government in some position, the state government in some position, or maybe with a utility company like Georgia Power or something like that, that is substantial, that are there, that their work is not seasonal. So think on these things when you get involved in the world of work, and you will need to become involved at an early age. I always felt that it was a man's place to work and demonstrate to his wife that he could provide for her. Although JoJo worked hard and she furnished some to the household, and probably had she not worked, we would not have enjoyed a lot of things that we did enjoy. And probably if your mother didn't work, you probably wouldn't have enjoyed a lot of the things that you have enjoyed. Although I have seen her anguish because she had to work or did work and had to put you in a child care center and walk away from in the morning and go back pick you up in the afternoon. That during those hours you was deprived of a home and the care of a mother. I have seen this, and it bothered me. And it bothers me now, that there was a time in your life when your mother was not there, and your father was away at work and your mother should have been there. But in our today's society, it's not possible sometimes for mothers to be there. They have to work to help sustain a family, especially at a level that you have learned to enjoy. At a level when you have a telephone in your room, a TV in your room, various gaming devices in your room, and other things that come with a mother's assistance that might not have come had she not worked. Well, I don't know much else I can say except, Carl, you need to be supportive of your mother now. I'm not bragging, but I pretty much handled the household expenditures and wrote the checks and paid the bills and looked after the monies and all this. Kept the bank accounts and kept the certificates and all like this. I encouraged your mother in the later years to become involved in this so she would know, because normally the man precedes the mother. The man precedes the wife when the passing comes. And I knew that she would need this, but she'd pass it off with some little coy remark. So now you're going to have to come forth and show and tell and explain all of this to her. She will understand. You might need to combine the two checking accounts. You might want to cash in some of the certificates. You might want to cash in some of the stock. But you and her can make that decision when the time comes. I have some life insurance with the Progressive Life Insurance Company in Birmingham, Alabama. I have some with Aflac, paid on a payroll deduction plan through the City of Columbus. I have some with the Fraternal Order of Police. I have some with the Peace Officers Association of Georgia and the Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund. These policies can be collected on. And we have an account with the TIC Credit Union, and we maintain enough monies in there to keep policies activated, and there will be some life insurance available there. If you need any help getting filing for the insurance policies with the city, you can see Jack McCoy. You know Jack. He'll help you. If you need any help, in filing for the Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund and the Peace Officers Association of Georgia, you can see Major, I reckon he'll still be a major, maybe a little further up, Wesley Mott in the Columbus Police Department, and he will assist you. So having said that, I guess I've said about all that I really wanted to say. I have run on here, but perhaps these things needed to be said. That has always been been one of my things. I used to tell Joe, I said, but there are some things that need to be said and people need to hear whether they want to hear them or not. And maybe these things need to be said. Now, you can do whatever you want to with this tape. You can destroy it. It won't self-destruct. I tried to get a self-destruct tape and they really don't make them. You can self-destruct this tape, you can keep it, or do whatever you want to with it. But I did want to say these things. And I apologize for all this wiping and the quivering of the voice. But this is one of those emotional times. There's no depression here. There's no anxiety here. This is just something that I want to do. And something that I have been planning on doing, but I could never really find the right time to do it. So today, while Joe was away, it seemed like the right time to do it. The telephone is ringing, but I'm not going to go answer it. Maybe the machine will pick it up. And this will help date somewhat this tape. So with that, I'll say goodbye. Father in heaven, we thank Thee for this day and this time and the opportunity to say the things that I have said. I thank You for the love of a family, for the love of a wife, I pray that You will support them, You will share Your grace and Your love on them. Give them wisdom and understanding, that they will realize that Your great plan has a purpose. Undergird them with your strength, such that they will realize that there are strengths in churches and with the association of church people. And from this, they can draw strength from times such as this. Again, I thank you for supporting me throughout my life, for providing for me and my family throughout my life. And now that it's over, I hope to see you in the person. For I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. See you in the rapture.